Welcome to Lead with Clarity. This is a space for leaders who want to grow without losing themselves in the process. Each episode is a short reflection on leadership, influence, and the inner work that shapes how we show up for others. It's not hype, not noise, just clear thinking for the journey of leading well. Today's episode is entitled The Most Expensive Skill in Leadership. Here we go. We're operating in the most information-rich environment in human history. Let's think about that for a moment. The sheer volume of data, research, frameworks, and thought leadership available to any leader on any device at any hour is staggering. And yet the leaders I work with are not struggling because they lack information. They're struggling because they have too much of it and not enough of something else. That something else is judgment. I want to start today's episode with something I've been sitting with for a while now. Something that I believe cuts to the core of what separates leaders who are simply well-informed from leaders who are genuinely effective. Knowledge has never been cheaper. Judgment has never been more expensive. The leaders who thrive know the difference. Let that land for a second. Here's what I see in real organizations with real leaders at real stakes. A decision needs to be made. The team gathers data. They build slides. They run analysis. They schedule another meeting to review the analysis, and then another. At some point, someone has to call it, and that's where the room gets quiet. Because calling it, committing to a direction when certainty is not available, when the data still has gaps, when reasonable people could land in different places, that's not a data exercise. It's a judgment call, and it's expensive. It costs you something. It requires you to own the outcome. No amount of information eliminates that cost. The leaders who thrive have made peace with that. The misread here is assuming that more information leads to better decisions. That if you just had one more report, one more data point, one more quarter of results, you would know what to do. That is quite a seductive story. It feels responsible. It looks like diligence. But in most cases, it's not more data than is needed. It's the courage to act on what you already know. The other misread is equating credentials with judgment. I've worked alongside brilliant people, deeply credentialed, intellectually rigorous, who could not translate their knowledge into a timely, clear decision. Knowledge and judgment are not the same currency. They do not convert at 1-to-1. Here's the reframe. Judgment's not a personality trait you either have or don't have. It's a capacity that is built deliberately, over time, through repeated practice of deciding, observing the outcome, and adjusting your read of the world. Every decision you defer, you're not protecting yourself from a bad outcome. You're missing a repetition. You are skipping a practice session for the very skill that will define your leadership ceiling. The leaders who thrive treat each decision as a development opportunity. They're not reckless. They do not ignore data. But they've learned to recognize the threshold where more information stops adding value and starts adding noise, and they have developed the discipline to call it there. Think about the last significant decision you delayed. What were you actually waiting for? Be honest with yourself. Was it truly more information, or was it more certainty? Because those are not the same thing, and certainty is rarely an offer. Now think about what it would take to make that call today. What do you already know? What does your read of the situation tell you? That's your judgment speaking. The question is whether you're willing to trust it. Knowledge has never been cheaper, and because of that, it has also never been less differentiating. Every leader in your competitive landscape has access to the same data sets, the same frameworks, the same research. What they do not have is your judgment, your pattern recognition, your ability to synthesize ambiguity into direction. That is the scarce resource. That is what your organization is actually paying for when they put you in that seat. Develop it deliberately, exercise it consistently, and never confuse the two.